I walked into the office at 7:30 a.m., earlier than usual. Max had sent me an email late last night asking me to come in for an important meeting. The subject line said, "Career Discussion," which made my stomach twist with worry. I'd been working at Anderson Tech for 5 years, climbing from junior analyst to senior project manager. Max had been my boss for the last 18 months, and our relationship was always tense. He took credit for my work, undermined me in meetings, and made jokes at my expense. Still, I never expected what was about to happen. When I reached his office, Max was already there, leaning back in his chair with that smug smile I'd grown to hate. He didn't offer me coffee or even a proper greeting. He just looked at me with cold eyes and said 4 words that changed everything. "Your position no longer exists." The room started spinning. I couldn't process what he'd just said. "What do you mean?" I managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper. Max shrugged like he was discussing the weather, not destroying my livelihood. "The company is restructuring. We're eliminating redundant positions, and yours is one of them. You'll need to clear out your desk today." I felt my hands start shaking. 5 years of dedication, countless late nights, weekends sacrificed for this company, and this was how it ended. No warning, no explanation, just a cold dismissal. "But I just finished the Morrison project," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "That brought in $2 million in revenue." Max waved his hand dismissively. "That was a team effort. Look, Tyler, this isn't personal. It's business. Security will escort you out once you've packed your things." He turned back to his computer, signaling the conversation was over. I stood there for a moment, frozen in disbelief. As I walked toward my desk, my mind was completely blank. My coworkers avoided eye contact, probably already aware of what had happened. Sarah from accounting gave me a sympathetic look but said nothing. I grabbed a cardboard box from the supply room and started packing my things. My college degree in its cheap frame, the coffee mug my sister gave me, the small plant that somehow survived 5 years of office fluorescent lighting. Each item felt heavier than the last. Then I heard it. Max's voice, loud and arrogant, coming from the conference room nearby. "Finally got rid of the dead weight," he was saying, followed by cruel laughter. Tyler thought he was irreplaceable. That Morrison project. I could have done that with my eyes closed. More laughter, this time from multiple voices. HR was in there with him, joining in on the joke about my termination. I felt rage burning in my chest, but I forced myself to stay calm. Losing my temper now would only give Max more ammunition against me. I finished packing my box and walked toward the exit, my head held high despite the humiliation crushing down on me. The security guard, Marcus, looked genuinely sorry as he escorted me to the door. "This is wrong, man," he whispered. "Everyone knows you carried half the projects around here." His words were kind, but they didn't make the pain any less sharp. Outside, the morning sun felt too bright, too cheerful for the worst day of my life. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, just staring at the steering wheel. My phone buzzed with notifications. Texts from coworkers expressing shock and support. I ignored them all. Finally, I drove home, my mind racing with a million thoughts. How would I pay my rent? What would I tell my family? Back in my apartment, I collapsed onto the couch and stared at the ceiling. The silence was deafening. For 5 years, my entire identity had been wrapped up in that job. I was Tyler Chen, senior project manager at Anderson Tech. Now I was just Tyler Chen, unemployed and humiliated. I tried calling HR directly, hoping for some explanation or maybe even a mistake that could be corrected. The phone rang 4 times before going to voicemail. The automated message was cold and robotic, offering no comfort or hope. I left a message anyway, asking for clarification about my termination and whether there were any severance packages available. Hours passed. I couldn't eat, couldn't focus on anything. I kept replaying Max's words in my head. "Your position no longer exists." But I knew the truth. My position existed just fine. Max simply wanted me gone because I made him look bad by being competent. As the afternoon sunlight faded, something shifted inside me. The shock and hurt started transforming into something else. Clarity. I sat up and opened my laptop. If Max thought he could just discard me without consequences, he was badly mistaken. I wasn't going to rage or make a scene. That's what he'd expect. Instead, I was going to play the long game. I started by updating my resume, carefully documenting every major project I'd led, every success I'd achieved. The Morrison project, the Chen initiative, the complete overhaul of the client management system. All my work, all my victories laid out in professional detail. Then I cleaned up my LinkedIn profile, adding endorsements and recommendations I'd been too modest to request before. Next, I did something more strategic. I began researching Anderson Tech's recent financial decisions, particularly the ones Max had been involved in. Something felt off about my sudden termination, and I trusted my instincts. My phone rang at 6:30 p.m., exactly 6 hours after Max had fired me. The caller ID showed Anderson Tech HR department. My heart jumped, but I forced myself to stay calm. I let it ring 3 times before answering. Tyler Chen speaking, I said, keeping my voice neutral. Tyler, this is Janet from HR. We need you to come back to the office immediately. Her voice was high-pitched and panicked, completely different from the robotic voicemail system I'd encountered earlier. I'm comfortable at home, thank you, I replied coolly. If there's something to discuss, we can do it over the phone. I heard papers shuffling frantically on her end. There's been a terrible misunderstanding. Max didn't have the authority to terminate you. Your position is still active, and we need you to return right away. A misunderstanding. The anger I'd been suppressing all day threatened to surface, but I kept it buried. This was interesting. What exactly do you mean by misunderstanding? I asked, leaning back in my chair. Janet's voice trembled slightly. Max exceeded his authority. He can't terminate senior managers without board approval and proper documentation. We need you to come back so we can straighten this out. I let the silence stretch for a long moment. No, I don't think so. What? Janet sounded genuinely shocked. Tyler, you're not fired. This was a mistake. Please, we can fix this. A mistake, I repeated slowly. Janet, I was humiliated in front of my colleagues, escorted out by security, and spent 6 hours believing my career was over. And now you want me to just come back like nothing happened? More silence on her end. We can discuss compensation for the confusion. I'll need to think about it, I said. I'll call you back tomorrow. I hung up before she could respond. My hands were shaking, but this time from excitement rather than fear. Max had messed up badly, and I was going to make him pay. That night I couldn't sleep. My mind was racing with possibilities and questions. Why had Max fired me without proper authority? What was he trying to hide? I got up at 3 a.m. and made coffee, then opened my laptop again. I started going through my old emails, looking for anything unusual. That's when I found it. 3 months ago, Max had redirected a major contract with Stellar Industries through a consulting firm called MaxBridge Solutions. The name alone made me suspicious. I did a quick search. MaxBridge Solutions was registered to someone named Maxwell Morrison. Max's full name was Maxwell Morrison Hayes. The dots started connecting. Max had been funneling company contracts through his own shell company, taking cuts from deals that should have gone directly to Anderson Tech. My Morrison project had probably interfered with one of his schemes, which explained why he wanted me gone so badly. I spent the next 3 days gathering evidence. I reached out to former colleagues carefully, asking casual questions about Max's recent projects. Sarah from accounting mentioned that several payments had been processed to MaxBridge Solutions, but she'd assumed it was legitimate. Max approved them all personally, she said during our coffee meeting. I thought it was strange that we were using a consultant for work we normally do in-house, but who am I to question management? I also spoke with David, a senior developer who'd been pushed out 6 months earlier. Max said my code wasn't up to standard, David told me bitterly. But I'd been getting excellent reviews for 3 years. Then suddenly I'm incompetent. I think I got too close to something he didn't want me to see. The pattern was becoming clear. Max eliminated anyone who might expose his fraud scheme. I was just his latest target. On the 4th day after my termination, I received a formal offer letter from HR. They wanted me back with a 5% raise and an apology. I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I focused on my real plan. I'd applied to 3 of Anderson Tech's biggest competitors, and 2 had already called me back for interviews. My first interview was with Quantum Systems, Anderson Tech's main rival. The hiring manager, Lisa Rodriguez, was impressed by my portfolio. "The Morrison project alone would make you valuable," she said. "But your entire track record is exceptional. Why are you leaving Anderson Tech?" I chose my words carefully. "Let's just say I've outgrown my current position, and I'm looking for a company that values integrity and competence." Lisa smiled knowingly. "We've heard rumors about management issues over there. Well, Tyler, I think you'd be a great fit for our senior director position. It comes with a 30% salary increase and full benefits." While waiting for Quantum Systems' official offer, I continued documenting Max's fraud. I created a detailed timeline of every suspicious transaction, every contract that went through MaxBridge Solutions, every employee who'd been mysteriously terminated or pushed out. The pattern was undeniable. Max had been running this scheme for at least 2 years, stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars from Anderson Tech. I also discovered something else. Max had been bad-mouthing the company's CEO, Richard Anderson, in emails to board members. He was positioning himself for a promotion, trying to make it look like Richard's leadership was failing while Max's innovative consulting partnerships were the only thing keeping the company profitable. The arrogance was breathtaking. Max thought he was untouchable because he'd been clever enough to hide his fraud in plain sight. But he'd made one critical mistake. He'd underestimated me. The official offer from Quantum Systems arrived via email. Senior Director of Project Development, 40% salary increase, signing bonus and full benefits. Accepted immediately. Then I drafted my resignation letter to Anderson Tech. It was professional and brief, giving 2 weeks' notice as required by my contract. I sent it directly to Janet in HR, not to Max. His response came within an hour. Max called my personal phone. His voice tight with barely controlled anger. "You can't resign," he said. "We reinstated you. You're still employed here." "Actually, Max, I can resign whenever I want. That's how employment works. After everything this company has done for you." His voice rose. "You're being incredibly ungrateful." I almost laughed. "Everything the company did for me. Max, you fired me illegally and humiliated me. The only reason HR wants me back is because you screwed up. I'm done." My first day at Quantum Systems felt like stepping into a different world. The office was modern and bright, and my new colleagues actually seemed happy to be there. Lisa introduced me to the team, and everyone was welcoming and professional. No politics, no backstabbing, just people focused on doing good work. Meanwhile, back at Anderson Tech, chaos was brewing. Sarah sent me a text. "Max is freaking out. He's been in emergency meetings all day. Something about the Morrison project contract being disputed." Smiled. Before leaving, I'd quietly reached out to our Morrison project client, suggesting they review their contract terms. They discovered that MaxBridge Solutions had taken a 15% consulting fee that wasn't disclosed in the original agreement. The client was threatening to sue Anderson Tech for fraud. Max's house of cards was starting to collapse, and I'd barely started. 2 weeks into my new job, I received an unexpected call from Richard Anderson himself, the CEO of Anderson Tech. "Tyler, I need to speak with you about some serious concerns regarding Maxwell Hayes," he said. His voice was grave. "I've been reviewing our financial records, and there are irregularities I can't explain. Your name keeps coming up as someone who might have insight." I chose my words carefully. "Mr. Anderson, I documented everything I found before I left. I have emails, transaction records, and a timeline of suspicious activities. I'd be happy to share that information with you and your legal team. Please send everything you have, he said. And Tyler, I owe you an apology. I should have paid more attention to what was happening under my own roof. 3 days later, Anderson Tech announced an internal investigation into financial improprieties. Max was placed on immediate administrative leave. The news spread through the industry like wildfire. The investigation moved faster than I expected. Anderson Tech hired an external forensic accounting firm to trace every transaction involving MaxBridge Solutions. The results were damning. Max had stolen over $700,000 over 2 years through fraudulent consulting fees and kickback schemes. Criminal charges were filed. The district attorney's office got involved. Max's face appeared on the local news, looking haggard and desperate as reporters shouted questions at him outside the courthouse. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Former colleagues wanted to congratulate me, apologize for not speaking up sooner, or simply express their shock at the extent of Max's fraud. We all knew something was off, David told me during one call. But we thought we were crazy. You proved we weren't. The vindication felt good, but it wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about justice and protecting the company from a corrupt manager who'd betrayed everyone's trust. Max called me from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Tyler, please, you have to help me. His voice was barely recognizable, stripped of all its former arrogance. Tell them this was all a misunderstanding. You know how corporate accounting works. Sometimes things look bad, but there are legitimate explanations. Like funneling contracts through your own shell company? I asked calmly. Like firing anyone who got close to discovering your fraud? It wasn't like that, he protested. I was trying to bring in additional revenue streams. The company was struggling, and I was finding creative solutions. Creative solutions, I repeated. Is that what we're calling theft now? My career is over, he said, and I could hear tears in his voice. My reputation is destroyed. Please, Tyler. I made mistakes, but I don't deserve this. Felt no sympathy. You destroyed people's careers to protect your fraud, Max. You humiliated me, fired me illegally, and laughed about it. Now you face the consequences. Not everyone was happy about Max's downfall. A few people at Anderson Tech had been loyal to him, either because they'd benefited from his schemes or simply because they believed his lies. These people started a whisper campaign against me, claiming I was vindictive and had fabricated evidence because I was bitter about being fired. One former colleague, Marcus Webb, even posted on social media that I was a snake who destroyed a good man's career out of spite. The posts got some traction, and I started receiving angry messages from people who didn't know the full story. Stung more than I expected. I'd done the right thing, exposed genuine fraud, and yet some people were determined to paint me as the villain. Lisa, my new boss, called me into her office. Tyler, I've seen some concerning posts online. I need you to know that Quantum Systems fully supports you. We've verified your documentation independently, and everything checks out. The internal investigation at Anderson Tech revealed even more than I'd discovered. Max had also been involved in a scheme to inflate project costs, pocketing the difference through MaxBridge Solutions. He'd convinced board members that complex projects required expensive consulting work, when in reality, the work was being done by existing employees. The total amount of fraud exceeded $1.2 million. The board of directors held an emergency meeting and voted unanimously to cooperate fully with law enforcement. They also issued a public statement acknowledging the fraud and apologizing to clients who'd been affected. My name appeared in their statement, not as a victim, but as a former employee whose diligence and integrity helped uncover serious financial crimes. The acknowledgement felt good. After weeks of being called a disgruntled ex-employee by Max's supporters, it was validating to have the truth recognized publicly. Anderson Tech's stock price took a hit, but analysts praised the company's transparency. The media coverage intensified when someone leaked an audio recording of Max talking to a MaxBridge Solutions partner. In the recording, Max openly discussed how he'd manipulated project budgets and eliminated troublesome employees who asked too many questions. Tyler Chen was getting too close, Max said on the tape. Guy's too smart for his own good. Had to get rid of him before he connected the dots. The recording aired on local news stations and went viral online. Social media exploded with commentary about corporate fraud and toxic workplace culture. Max became a symbol of everything wrong with corrupt management, trending on Twitter under hashtags like corruption and corporate fraud. The few defenders he'd had went silent. Even Marcus Webb deleted his posts attacking me and issued a grudging apology. The truth was undeniable now, captured in Max's own voice. His own words condemning him completely. Richard Anderson called me again, this time with an unexpected offer. Tyler, the board and I have discussed this extensively. We want you to come back to Anderson Tech as Vice President of Operations. You'd be overseeing all project management and helping us rebuild our reputation. The offer included a substantial salary, equity in the company, and a seat in executive meetings. It was more than I'd ever imagined achieving. But I didn't accept immediately. Mr. Anderson, I appreciate the offer tremendously. But I'm happy at Quantum Systems. They took a chance on me when I needed it most, and I don't take that loyalty lightly. I understand, he said. But think about it, Tyler. You helped save this company. You deserve to be part of its future. I promised to consider it, but my heart wasn't in it. Anderson Tech represented a painful chapter of my life. Moving forward meant staying at Quantum Systems, where I was valued from day one. Max's trial was surprisingly quick. With a mountain of evidence against him. His lawyer advised him to accept a plea deal. Max pleaded guilty to wire fraud, embezzlement, and tax evasion. The judge sentenced him to 6 years in federal prison and ordered him to pay full restitution to Anderson Tech and affected clients. I attended the sentencing hearing. Max looked broken. His expensive suit hanging loosely on his frame like he'd lost weight. When the judge asked if he had anything to say, Max turned and looked directly at me. I'm sorry, he said quietly. Tyler, I'm sorry for what I did to you. I didn't respond. His apology was too little, too late, motivated by his circumstances rather than genuine remorse. As marshals led him away in handcuffs, I felt nothing. No triumph, no satisfaction, just a quiet sense of closure. The man who'd tried to destroy my career had destroyed his own instead. Anderson Tech continued to struggle in the aftermath of the scandal. 2 board members resigned, and the company lost several major contracts as clients questioned whether they could trust the organization. Richard Anderson implemented sweeping reforms, bringing in new leadership and establishing strict financial oversight protocols. Meanwhile, Quantum Systems was thriving. We'd won 3 major contracts in 2 months, partly because Anderson Tech's troubles had made clients nervous about staying with them. Some of those clients came directly to us, and I was managing their accounts. Lisa promoted me to executive director after just 4 months. You've exceeded every expectation, she told me. Your integrity and competence are exactly what this company needs. I was making more money than I'd ever imagined, working with a team I respected, and building a reputation as someone who could be trusted completely. The irony wasn't lost on me. 6 months after Max's sentencing, I received a letter forwarded through Anderson Tech's legal department. It was from Max, written from prison. The letter was long and rambling, filled with self-pity and attempts to justify his actions. But near the end, he wrote something that caught my attention. I convinced myself I deserved that money because I was smarter than everyone else. I thought the rules didn't apply to me. Watching my career end while yours flourishes has taught me that competence and integrity matter more than cleverness and connections. You won, Tyler. Not because you destroyed me, but because you were always better than me. I read the letter twice, then filed it away. Max was right about one thing. This wasn't about revenge or destruction. It was about justice, accountability, and the simple truth that doing the right thing matters, even when it's difficult. I'd moved on from Anderson Tech, from Max, from all of it. Today I sit in my corner office at Quantum Systems, looking out over the city skyline. My team just closed a $15 million deal, the biggest in company history. Lisa sent out a company-wide email crediting my leadership and vision. My phone buzzed with congratulations from colleagues, friends, and even a few former Anderson Tech employees who'd followed me to Quantum Systems. I thought about that morning 6 months ago when Max told me my position no longer existed. He'd been wrong. My position existed just fine. It just wasn't with his company anymore. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's succeeding so thoroughly that your enemies become irrelevant. Max is in prison. His career is over. His reputation is destroyed. And me? I'm exactly where I deserve to be, building something meaningful with people I trust. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Anderson Tech's legal department. Max had sent another letter. I deleted it without reading. I was done looking backward. The future was too bright to waste time on the past.